Coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios, this is Prime News on SABC 3. Here are the stories making headlines.
There is no persecution of white African or South Africans in South Africa.
The International Relations Department says there are no bases to identify the group of white Afrikaners resettling in the US as refugees.
Following the arrest of 4 suspects in Ketamine last month, we had to dig deeper to search for their friends.
8 suspected criminals have been killed by police in less than 24 hours in KwaZulu-Natal.
So Judge Takota asked to view that footage. In his affidavit, he says that he got permission from the court manager to view that footage. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that.
And the Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing sexual harassment allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President has heard that it is possible to tamper with CCTV footage once it is downloaded from the system. Good evening and welcome to Prime News on 3. A pleasure it is to be in your company this evening. I am Paulette. Now, let's start first with this leading story. President Cyril Ramaphosa says that his administration will continue to push for the transformation in the country. Speaking at the Africa CEO Forum in Abidjan in Côte d'Ivoire, the president said that the 49 white Afrikaners who have left for the US are not facing any persecution in South Africa.
President Cyril Ramaphosa and his Rwandan counterpart, President Paul Kagame, are sitting side by side. There has been a standoff between Kigali and Pretoria over the conflict in the eastern DRC. While this is not the first time, the two leaders are under one roof here and sharing a platform. The elephant in the room is the current development after 49 white Afrikaners left for the US under Trump's administration refugee program.
We've raised our own concern because those people who are being enticed to go to the United States do not fit the definition of a refugee. A refugee is someone who has to leave their country out of fear of political persecution, religious persecution. They don't fit that bill. They don't fit that description. And I had a conversation with President Trump on the phone, and he said, what's happening down there? And I said, President, what you've been told by those people who are opposed to transformation back home in South Africa is not true.
The current conflict in Eastern DRC also dominated the discussions.
People may think that President Kagame and I are in conflict, and some of you may have thought that there's going to be fireworks as we're sitting close to each other.
Well, I think there are several efforts going on at the same time. That's the problem. And even that one we are talking about, whether it is Qatar or the US, or we can't say we have succeeded. Everyone is trying.
Meanwhile, President Ramaphosa hopes to consolidate bilateral ties with Côte d'Ivoire, the host of this year's Africa CEO Forum, and is one of South Africa's strategic partners in West Africa. Khalihle Khumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Still on that story, International Relations Minister Ronald Ramula has also dismissed the assertion that the group that left South Africa last night are refugees. Meanwhile, the charter plane carrying the 49 from Johannesburg has landed at the Washington Jules Airport.
The first 49 white Afrikaners left on Sunday evening. However, the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Ronald Lamola, says they are not refugees.
There is no persecution of white African or South Africans in South Africa. This has been proven by a number of statistics in our country, including the police reports, which don't back that assertion of persecution of white South Africans on the basis of their race.
Minister Lamulwa has also confirmed that President Ramaphosa will meet his US counterpart.
The working visit of President Ramaphosa to the US, I can state that it's at an advanced stage. The presidency, I believe, will soon announce the dates and when the engagement is going to happen.
He also took time to touch on the relations between South Africa and Rwanda.
From our side, there was no issue. It was an unprovoked outburst that happened in the public, and South Africa continued to maintain diplomatic engagement with Rwanda.
Sophie Mkwena, SABC News, Johannesburg.
8 suspected criminals have been killed by police in less than 24 hours in KwaZulu-Natal. Police say these suspects were part of a gang that was terrorizing communities. In a separate shooting, 5 suspects were killed during a shootout with police in Mpumalanga Township on the outer west of Durban on Sunday.
Of 4 suspects in Ketomina last month, we had to dig deeper to search for their friends, and then we got intelligence that 3 of them were hiding in this house behind us. When we arrived here, through the window, they fired through police officers, and tactically so, police returned fire. And during the shootout, 3 of them were shot and fatally wounded. The police were signaled for them to stop. The suspects ignored instructions and opened fire towards the police. Police had no choice but to return fire so that they can be safe and ensure the safety of everybody around the main road. Then during that shootout, 5 suspects were shot and fatally wounded.
The Judicial Conduct Tribunal has heard that the acquisition of a CCTV footage between the dates of the 14th and the 16th of November 2022 by senior judge of the Eastern Cape Division of the High Court did not follow procedure. The said footage is evidence relating to the allegations of unwanted in-person interaction between Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo and the Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge.
The circumstances surrounding the viewing of the CCTV footage of the Mthatha High Court was thrust into the spotlight at the landmark sexual harassment probe before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal. The tribunal heard that the footage was requested by Judge Bantubonke Tsogota with the permission of the court manager. A process witness Pragabaran Naidu, the Director of Facilities and Security Management at the Office of the Chief Justice, said was not procedural. When he was cross-examined by Mengo's counsel, Advocate Nazreen Rajab Badlenda SC.
So Judge Takota asked to view that footage, and we have an affidavit from him as well in the papers. In his affidavit, he says that he got permission from the court manager to view that footage. Are you aware of that?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Do you know who the court manager is in the Mthatha High Court?
Not personally, but I have communicated with him, Mr. Mhlonhlo, at the time of trying to retrieve this footage.
Okay. But am I correctly understand your evidence that that was not in accordance with protocol?
It was not.
This TV footage relates to Mengo's previous testimony of alleged unwanted advances from the top judge in his chambers, which she testified took place either on the 14th or the 15th of November 2022. The footage of the 15th, however, could not be acquired.
What's happened to the 15th of November?
I can't say.
Mbenenge's counsel during cross-examination probed whether Naidu had not been given sight of the court manager's affidavit where he states that he sanctioned the viewing of the footage. While Naidu agreed that he did not have sight of it, the principle remained that based on procedure, the court manager did not have the power to sanction it.
He's not the one to give the blessings, if I may put it that way.
Evidence leader Advocate Solume Skiepers indicated that she's not yet ready to close her case and seeks to call a gender expert to the stand. A request Mbenenge's counsel objected to at this late stage. The tribunal will rule on this request on Tuesday. Kani Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now on to this. The case against Nigerian national televangelist Timo Omo has been adjourned for continuation tomorrow. Omo appeared in the East London Regional Court on charges related to contravention of the Immigration Act following his arrest on Saturday at East London CBD. Immigration officer from Home Affairs Department, Obrim Funzana, testified in the court that Omo does not possess a valid visa and has no pending application thereof. He said Omo temporary visa application was rejected in 2017 as his documents were not in line with the visa application requirements. Meanwhile, defense lawyer advocate Sakele Poswa argued that Omo arrest was premature and his rights were infringed. A case against two of the 5 suspects who were arrested in connection with the disappearance of a journalist, Aerin Rovu, and his partner, Zodwa Mdluli, has been postponed for Monday, May 19th for further investigations. The suspects appeared briefly at the KwaMhlanga Magistrates Court. The men form part of a group of 5 men allegedly linked to the matter. Zodwa Mdluli's aunt, Florence Manana, has applauded the police for their assistance but asked for a swift release of the DNA results. The Gauteng government has underspent 1.8 billion rands in the past financial year. Finance and Economic Development MEC Lebogang Maile says the majority of the unspent funds are from the Departments of Health and Education.
Gauteng government says the underspent funds of the past financial year remain available for reallocation to programs and projects and refutes reports that the underspent funds are lost to the province. Maile says of the 1.8 billion rands underspent, there is just over 380 million rands from the conditional grant underspent, of which representation was made to National Treasury for just over 295 million, motivating for it to be rolled over.
The 1.4 billion, it's what comes from the provincial equitable share, meaning it's a money that we've got a discretion on. And the 400 million, it's money that comes from the conditional grant. And out of that money, it's only 85 million that will definitely be unspent because we've not asked for a rollover. So from where we are sitting, we should be able to reprioritize and reallocate the 1.4 billion. So we are not losing 1.8 billion as it was initially reported to National Treasury.
Of the 1.8 billion rand in underspending, 58% is from the Departments of Health and Education.
Some of the issues, as MEC has indicated, during the adjustment budget, we allocated about 600 million to the Department of Health and 300 million to the Department of Education, which was additional towards their compensation of employees.
Maile says the provincial MECs of Finance and the Minister of Finance will meet this week at a budget council, and that's where there will be clarity on whether there will be any changes made to provincial budgets, which may require MECs to also table new provincial budgets. Gloria Sefakomusi, SABC News, Johannesburg.
We're back with more news. Transnet says that the turnaround of the entity will largely rely on its engineering division as an original equipment manufacturer. The entity held a stakeholder ceremony at one of its engineering plants in Pretoria.
Round plan has come and gone. The plan was introduced in 2023 and ended at the end of March 2025. In that plan, the entity unbundled into 2, namely the Transnet Infrastructure Manager, TRIM, and the Transnet Freight Rail Operations Company, TFROC, with an emphasis on private-public partnerships. Besi Mabunda is the Transnet Engineering Chief Executive and says they're starting to see the results.
There's a lot of locomotives, over 110, that we brought back into service. That has assisted us in being able to actually achieve the 160 million ton that we have been able to achieve.
The entity has also set up 60 projects as it looks to diversify its original equipment manufacturing portfolio in addressing backlogs and disruptions from its long-standing dispute with Chinese state-owned CRRC local on the delivery of locomotives and spare parts.
Given that we had unsolicited approaches, we want to formalize this and to see if there are entities out there that have access to spares, which are either replacement components for the CRRC parts or to some extent even original parts manufacturer.
Transnet will take the ideas and plans outlined here to the two-day upcoming annual rail conference set for Tuesday and Wednesday at the Senton Convention Center. The message remains that the entity is open for business, with the state company also looking to address equipment manufacturing challenges through the private-public partnerships. Katlego Logodi, SABC News in Pretoria.
Time now to have a look at the latest weather update. Stay tuned.
Thank you very much and a very warm welcome to the weather desk. Time for us to look at those conditions over the country now. A typical winter's night where a high pressure system is dominating the weather over the country. Only partly cloud conditions as we move into Gauteng, Limpopo and also Mpumalanga for tonight. Now moving on to tomorrow, those partly conditions are persisting over Limpopo and the northwest. Still dry and clear as we move towards the central parts of the country, stretching all the way into the Northern Cape. We do have a warning of some runaway fire conditions over that interior of the Northern Cape. We're talking places such as Alexander Bay, possibilities of high temperatures over those areas for tomorrow. So please do take note of that. Moving on to Wednesday, that high pressure system still dominating over the country. It is going to be a cool day over the central parts of the country, but warm over Limpopo and also Mpumalanga with those partly cloudy conditions coming in. Also expecting a warm day's move towards the southern parts of the country, stretching all the way into the Northern Cape. Moving on to Thursday, those cloudy conditions persisting all the way towards the central parts of the country, and also it is going to be a cool day over the central parts, but should be warm as we move towards places such as Cape Town, East London and also Gqeberha for Thursday. Overnight temperatures, it is going to be a cool night over places such as Musina and Palabra with an average of 13, but should be cold for tonight over Johannesburg, stretching all the way into Free State, with Bethlehem and Bloemfontein expecting an average of 4. A 0 will be your minimum over Sunderland, meaning that it is going to be freezing for tonight over Sunderland. The mother city dropping down to 10. Maximum temperatures for tomorrow, it is quite a warm day to move towards the interior of Upington with the high of 23. Now we talked about those runaway fire conditions and high temperatures as we move into Alexander Bay. That is, we're expecting a high of 37 for tomorrow. 22 will be your maximum over Cape Town. Moving towards the central parts of the country, it is going to be a cool day, especially over Bethlehem with a high of 18. Up north, Musina, expecting a warm day with a maximum of 25. That's all the weather I have for you. Stay tuned.
That concludes our time together this evening. Much gratitude for joining us. Until next time, good night and God bless.